Okay, so for my studies, I'll be looking at studies that were done by Elder Tess. These studies were studies on the King of the South. And the reason why I thought it would be good for us to go back to these studies and revise is because these studies are the ones that have made up the Sunday law studies. And these, they make up the Midnight Cry message. And I just want someone to open LSMS 82.2 for us to read that. So they make up the Midnight Cry message, and they've helped the development of the Sunday law messages, and the studies that are important for this movement. They were important then and they're still important now. So it's always good to revise. If anyone has found the quotation, let me write it down. Um, These studies of Pyrrhus, the king of the south, and Diadochi Wars, World War I, World War II, for me, they were very overwhelming when they were presented by Elder Tess. So I did not have like the mental capacity to go through them thoroughly and understand. And by just going back, it has been very helpful to just see how God led Elder Tess and how much that information still applies today. And that information is still being used today to give us the standalone messages that we have now. And there might be people like me who found it hard to watch. I hope that it will be encouraging for you to go back and see. I know there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot of videos that need to be watched, but I still encourage you. One presentation a day can make a difference. It's all about us. It's all about the decision that we make. How far do we want to go? What kind of relationship do you want to have with God? And it comes from there. Once you set your mind to what you want to have in this movement, what kind of relationship you want with God, and you make a decision from there by making the change to achieve what you want. So I hope that it will encourage us to find some time to watch more, and to be consistent in watching. JC has given us a whole list of videos, and I'm giving you, which is histories which are even more complex. But I think, like, um, when we do it together, I hope that we'll be encouraged to see how it is just a story, like the stories that we're taught, the normal life stories is just stories, but they're stories that are intentional for God's people. It's stories that have been set apart from other stories, for God to guide us into a certain direction for our salvation, for us to see judgment coming, for us to see this, all these waymarks, events that are ahead of us, and waymarks that are ahead of us. Okay, so if someone has found the quotation, can read for us. Did anyone find LSMS 82.2? Yes.
All right. I seem to be surrounded with light and to be rising higher and higher above the dark world. I tend to look for the Advent people in the world, but could not find them. When a voice said to me, "Look again and look a little higher." At this I raised my eyes and saw a straight and narrow path cast up high above the world. On this path, the Advent people were traveling to the city, which was at the further end of the path. Behind them, at the beginning of the path, was a bright light, which an angel told me was the midnight cry. This light shone all along the path and gave light for their feet, that they might not stumble. Jesus himself went just before his people, leading them to the city. And as long as they kept their eyes fixed on him, they were safe. But soon some grew weary and said the city was a great way off, and they expected to have entered it before. Then Jesus would encourage them by raising his glorious right arm, from which came a light that waved over the Advent band, and they shouted, "Hallelujah." Others rashly denied the light behind them and said it was not God that had led them out so far. The light behind them went out, leaving their feet in perfect darkness, and they stumbled and lost sight of the mark and of Jesus, and fell off the path down into the dark and wicked world below.
Thank you. Okay. Can someone tell me what they picked up? I'll start with Lindsay. In connection with the midnight cry message. Okay, someone else? Precious. This is our guiding line on the path. Okay, thank you. Someone else to try? Yes.
They were on a straight and narrow path, and the light that was guiding them was behind them, like showing them the way.
Okay, so we're somewhere here. Just put here. And the quotation is telling us that we're being guided by the light, midnight cry message that's behind us. So that's why I think it's very helpful for us to go back and look at the messages that built the midnight cry. And because it's the foundation, everything else is built upon that. And that light, through Elder Tess, Elder Paminda, the many presenters that we had behind, it's good. So we're going to work together through the history of Pyrrhus. That's where we're going to go. As an exercise, I just want us to identify reform lines. Oh, on Zoom. Hello. Hi, Taz. Okay, so we're just going to identify 4 main reform lines that we have. The 4 main reform lines. It's interactive, So I'm going to pick. If I don't see hands, I'll just pick. For yes, Precious. Okay, which is okay. I'll give a clue so that we all participate. Um, how do I do it? Is it like this? Someone else? We have one line. Okay, so this is how do I put it? Am I? What does that mean? Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just assumed which is the first sign that you had put there signified the omega of modern Israel.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Right.
So let's fill in the other three. Go on. Thank you. If yeah. So we have these two. We need two more at the top. Okay, I got Alpha of ancient Israel and Omega of ancient Israel. So Elder Test identifies the fifth line. Which line do we identify as the fifth line? Rupert. Thank you. So then we've got Acts 27. So Elder Test takes us from Acts 27, Acts 27, verse 37. And she leads us to a history of 273. How does the verse take us to the history of 273? So we have Acts 27, verse 37, taking us to the history of 273 BC. How does she do that? Or how do we do that? How do you go from Acts 27, verse 37 to the history of 273 BC? Yes, Jerry.
We do that by taking 273 as a symbol. So that's how we get to 273 BC.
Thank you. Yes.
I think in the verse itself you have 276 people identified as being in the boat, and then you subtract the three, which are Paul, Luke, and Aristarchus. Yes. And then you remain with 273 people, which we then identified as the Levites in the boat. Paul, Luke, and Aristarchus being the priests. So there we get the number 273.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we go into the history of 273. And in that history, there is something going on. There's Rome, they rising to power. And we also see Pyrrhus being the king, as being the king of the south. So for us to understand more about the rise of Rome, we can't do much with that. We have to go and see what was going on, what led to the rise of Rome. So we have to look at that history and trace its development. So we're going to go to Daniel 8, verse 8. Yes, please.
Therefore the he god waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven.
Okay, so we're given the story of the little horn that is broken in Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. And who do we say the little horn is of Daniel chapter 8, verse 8? Yes, Alexander. Is it Alexander or Alexander? Alexander. So isn't it just wonderful how Elder Tess takes us to this symbol shift? We get the symbol 273, and in that history, we find the writings of Daniel, or a history that Daniel covered. So we see Alexander and this history of the breaking of the little horn and four rising up. We find it in 323. This is when Alexander dies. When Alexander dies, what happens? What happens to, like, in the context of what we read? We read Daniel 8, verse 8. Sorry? Okay, what happens to, yes, we've got the breaking of the little horn, and then we've got four notable horns that come up. Well, out of the four winds. And we're given four winds, but we know that these four winds are generals, are four generals. And who are the four generals? Seleucus. Okay, so Daniel gives us this history. Daniel is talking about the king of the north, and he talks about this little horn that is broken, and this little horn is on a he goat, correct? Okay, so this animal is a kingdom, and this little horn is leadership. it represents leadership, and these little horns also represent leadership. So before we see the coming up of these little horns, or the rising of these four generals, there is a history that they have to go through, and they fight 4 wars before they are, left as the 4 generals, which Daniel speaks about in Daniel 8 verse 8. What are the wars called? Okay. So an elder takes labors to go through all these wars. And yeah, and they lead us to a battle here in 301. What do we call this battle? The Battle of Ipsus. Okay. Where else in the book of Daniel do we find the death of Alexander? Lipat. Okay, that's correct. So if you go to Daniel 11 verse 4, we also find the death of Alexander. Can we read it? Okay, so Daniel 11 verse 4 also speaks of the same history, but this time it gives a little more information, and Daniel speaks of how the kingdom will not be divided according to his, which means that it's not going to be given to his children or his family, but it's going to be given to other people. And yeah, I think that's all. So 301 is the Battle of Ipsus. And at the Battle of Ipsus, there are 4 generals fight. There are actually 3 generals fighting. And who are they fighting against? It's revision, so pretend. Huh? Yes, yeah, Antigonus and who? All right. So they're fighting against Antigonus and Demetrius. Who's Antigonus to Demetrius? Okay. So this is father and son. Um, so Antigonus is a very powerful general, and he fought other battles, and he seems to be undefeatable. So the 4 generals could not handle him on their own, and they came together and they make this alliance to bring down Antigonus. So I'm going to draw a map to illustrate territories. Let's have in mind the reason why I'm drawing a map is because why are they fighting in the first place? Okay, there's two answers. I'll start with JJ. Okay, sphere of influence. JC.
As they want to be the king of the north. They want to inherit Alexander's kingdom.
Okay, so how are they going to inherit the kingdom? Yes, Leah.
They are going to inherit through fighting. So the one who wins is the one who dominates, who takes over the territory.
Yes, thank you. So they're fighting over territory, and for the only way they can expand their empires is by fighting. When they take over, they are the kings of that territory. So do we remember this boots? It used to traumatize me. Okay, so Italy is divided into the north and the south, and we have Rome in the north, and on the eastern parts of Italy we have the city of Epirus, which is ruled by Pyrrhus. And then on the east of Epirus, we have Macedonia. Um, and then on the southern, sorry, yeah, on the southern parts here we have Grecian empires, Grecian states. Okay, so just me, I missed a point that I just need to check. Sorry. Um, it's probably further. Okay, so we have. So, because we were all being traumatized by those lessons, so I don't know whether I got it wrong. It says the Greece states were like on the Precious, southern. sorry, I have to use the mic.
I've got a question about the Greece states.
Yes.
Were they not on the southern part of Rome?
I don't know how big they were. Maybe they did extend that side, but Yeah.
Because I
That's
remember from the presentation when she was referring to the boot,
to
the
the
boot, the shape of the boot. There was this what you call it?
this is Sicily.
Yes, Sicily, and then those other Greece states were yes, Turi and Tarentum.
They're here.
Yes, somewhere there.
Yes, but
They were spreading over. I just wanted to confirm
yes,
that
I
these
think
under
it.
Macedonia, they also were going that side.
I think it's wise to also just look at the maps and just see. But I know that the Grecian states were down here because yeah, this empire sometimes it would like expand downwards. Yeah. So I don't know how big it was. Maybe they would expand this way, but yeah, it's just right. Yes, Jesse.
Maybe those ones, maybe they were, if I remember also, they were just called Greece city states. And the actual Greece maybe is the one you're talking about there.
Under Macedonia.
I don't know. But like those ones in Italy, they are city states, they're not the actual Greece. So I think maybe when you write Greece, there you mean Greece. I don't know. Because when you talk of Macedonia and Greece, it's another thing. And then when you talk of Pyrrhus in Rome and Pyrrhus in Italy, it's another thing. And those ones that are under Rome are called Greece city states. They're not the actual country Greece.
Okay. Well, for the presentations that I watched, Elder Tis placed Greece there, and there were Grecian states at the bottom of Greece. Okay. So I'll just put Grecian states. Maybe. Oh, that's its permanent. So I'll just put Grecian states. So on the southern part, there are Grecian states. Before I move on, does anyone else have a question? Yes.
For me, I think there is a history in Macedonia for Pyrrhus, and there is a history in Italy for Pyrrhus. Those are two separate histories. So when dealing with Pyrrhus in Macedonia, it states in Macedonia, and there are Greek seat states in Italy. But those are two separate histories.
Okay.
Italy is in the west. Between the east and the west, there is Ionian Sea. So Pyrrhus was called to the west to deal with Rome after being disenfranchised or failed to get what he wanted in the east. So we get cities like Sparta, Athens, etc. in the east, and Tarentum, Turi in the west.
Mm-hmm. Did everyone get that? On Zoom. Zoom, do I have to repeat that on Zoom? I can't repeat it. What do I do? Is there a way someone can log in on Zoom and just maybe pass on to the people who will be talking? So what I can repeat is that what Liberty said is that there are Grecian states in Macedonia, and there's also Grecian states in Rome, depending on the history that we're dealing with of Pyrrhus. Yeah. Okay, so we started from 301. So we're looking at Pyrrhus, king of the south, and so um, we're going to see where we first see Pyrrhus in this history that is given to us by Daniel and also by Elder Tessa's study of Acts 27. So we're going to talk about Athens, which is a Grecian state. In the history, we see in 317, we go to the year 317, and we see a dictator that is placed in Athens by one of the generals, who is Cassander. So Cassander in 317, he places a dictator in Athens, and in 307, we see the dictator being freed by Demetrius. So Cassander places a dictator in Athens, and the Athens is freed from that dictator by who? Demetrius. Who did we say Demetrius is? Yes. And who is Antigonus?
He was one of the generals.
Okay, very powerful general. Thank you. So Demetrius frees Athens, and Cassander is not happy about that. And between this history, there's 303, where Demetrius had gotten into an alliance with Pyrrhus of Pyrrhus. So let's remember that Pyrrhus is the main character in these studies, but the history also matters. The history surrounding Pyrrhus also matters. So I'll repeat what I just said. 317, the year 317, we have Cassander placing a dictator in a Grecian state called Athens. And Demetrius frees Athens from that dictator, and Cassander is not happy. So Demetrius is in an alliance with Pyrrhus. Okay, so did we all get that? Stella, do you want me to repeat for you? Okay, so I just do a quick revision. We started off by looking at the four main reform lines of the movement, and we go to Acts 27, which is the fifth line. Elder Tess identifies Acts 27 as the fifth line, and Acts 27 verse 37 gives us a symbol, 273 BC. And Takuzo helped us to understand how we got to 273 BC. Acts 27 gives us the number 276, which is um, uh, um, the number of all the people who were in the ship of Hadramisi. Okay, so from 276, we subtract Luke, Paul, and Aristarchus, and we get 273. And from 273, we went into the history of 273. And we saw that in 273 there was Rome coming into power, and there was also a player by the name of Pyrrhus, and Pyrrhus is identified as the king of the south. So for us to fully understand or to be benefited by that, we can't just have that alone. We have to go through the whole history and understand what's taking place. And we went to Daniel chapter 8, verse 8, where we see Daniel speaking of the little horn and the four horns that come up out of the four winds. And we see that Alexander dies in the year 323. And we can see that the history is also connected to 273. Because when Alexander dies, there are battles that are fought before the four little horns come up, or the four generals are sent to power. And we see this happening at the Battle of Ipsus, where we only see four generals, and they're fighting against Antigonus and Demetrius. And Antigonus was also one of the generals who came out stronger from these Diadochi. He was very powerful, and he could not be defeated by the four generals. So they come together to form an alliance so that they can defeat Antigonus. And then we want to see here, I want to show us how Pyrrhus, where Pyrrhus starts appearing in this history. And then 317, we have Cassander, one of the generals, placing a dictator in Athens. A dictator is just a leader who is going to have control or try to win a people so that they can conquer a territory. So he places a dictator in Athens, and that dictator is removed by Demetrius, Antigonus' son, and Athens is freed. When Athens is freed, Cassandra is not happy, and so we're going to see what's going to happen after that. Does that help? Okay. So we also identified that Pyrrhus was in an alliance with who? Demetrius. How was Pyrrhus in an alliance with Demetrius? Jerry.
One of the things there was a marriage relation. Uh, I was saying one of the things was there was a marriage relation between the sister of Pyrrhus and Demetrius, and also Pyrrhus was acting as a general to Demetrius.
Did everyone get that? Okay. So Pyrrhus is acting as a general to Demetrius, and we have Pyrrhus in an alliance through marriage. So in 3, we're going back here. In 301, who remembers how many generals were fighting out of the 4? They were in an alliance, but how many generals were fighting at Ipsas? Yes, Jerry? Okay, 3. Why were they 3? Why? Okay, where was he? Okay, someone tell. Sorry? Okay. Someone tell. Where was Ptolemy? We don't remember. Okay, so we come back tomorrow with an answer. So, like Precious said, Ptolemy was doing business elsewhere, and then he got news that the other 3 generals were defeated, and he went to Egypt to defend his borders. So he did not attend because of that. So we only had Lysimachus, Cassander, and Seleucus. And so at the Battle of Ipsus, we have Lysimachus, Cassander, and Seleucus fighting Antigonus and Demetrius. Who else is under Demetrius? Pyrrhus. So here we see Pyrrhus fighting alongside Demetrius. Does anyone want to have a try on just giving a background of the Battle of Ipsus? Joannis.
Just a summary. It was Antigonus against those 3 generals. Plus, I think in summary, it's just Antigonus against those 3 generals and plus Demetrius and Pyrrhus.
Okay, all right. Precious had a hand. And Jerry.
So to add on to what Johannes has said, so the four generals were fighting, the three generals were fighting against Antigonus together with Demetrius and Pyrrhus. Antigonus wanted to keep Greece together. He wanted to preserve the kingdom of Alexander. He had the values of Alexander. But the other generals, they had their own selfish motives. And we see that Antigonus was then defeated in that way.
Okay, thank you. How was Antigonus defeated? Talk.
I don't recall. Sorry.
Okay, it's fine. Um, I'll ask. Us, huh? Just a brief background of Ipsos, if you recall.
Might not be brief.
Okay, so no.
But then, let me just-
Okay.
So, at first, when they staged for the battle, one general was already out, Ptolemy,
Mhm.
and Seleucus also was not there. He arrived just at the beginning of the battle.
Okay.
And I think he's the one who turned the tide of the battle because Lysimachus and Cassander were, in comparison to Antigonus, were weak.
Mm.
So Seleucus brought about 400 elephants. And because of those elephants, they won against Antigonus.
Okay, so Seleucus comes. Thank you, Liberty. Thank you for the summary. So Seleucus comes with 400 to 500 war elephants. And like Liberty says that Antigonus and Demetrius, they were defeated in battle. Antigonus and Demetrius, they both had armies and they both had territories individually. And when they came to battle, they had those two separate armies. And what Seleucus does is he drove those elephants, the war elephants, in between the two armies, which separated Demetrius from Antigonus. Antigonus was older. Antigonus was about 80 years old. And so he was the weaker party. So after separating Antigonus and Demetrius, Seleucus, they focus on Antigonus and they kill Antigonus. Demetrius could not defend his father. So when he found out that Antigonus was dead, Demetrius then flees. He flees, and we have the territory of Antigonus being divided between the three generals. So we have the territory of Antigonus being divided between the three generals. Uh, so when the territory was divided into three, Seleucus is given a territory that was previously owned by who? By Ptolemy. So to remember, Ptolemy was not there. So the three generals, they fight the battle and they win. They take the territory of Antigonus and they share it amongst themselves, the three of them. But Seleucus takes a territory that was previously owned by Ptolemy. So Ptolemy did not get anything because he did not show up for the battle. And soon after, Ptolemy marches to Syria. So, sorry, I just want to confirm the area that if someone can help. Remember, I'm also a student here, so I just wanted to clarify the area that was given to Seleucus that belonged to Ptolemy. If we don't, it can be Syria. Coel is Syria. Okay, so Ptolemy comes back and he marches to take control of his previously owned territory, which was given to Seleucus. And what relationship did Seleucus and Ptolemy have? Winnie, what relationship did Ptolemy and Seleucus have? It's here. Were they enemies? Were they working together? Yes, they were working together, so they were allies. So they had a good relationship. And when Ptolemy comes and marches on Seleucus, Seleucus allows him to take that territory because of their alliance. So when we go to Daniel's story, we can find this history of Ptolemy and Seleucus. Where can we find this history? In the book of Daniel. Yes, Chichi. This. Yes, so sure. If you start from one, you'll be close. One step ahead.
Verse 6.
Huh?
6.
You jumped it.
Verse 5.
Verse 5. So it's Daniel 11, verse 5. So Daniel 11, verse 5, it speaks of Ptolemy and Seleucus. If you can just read that, you can read it for us. Cheers.
Verse 5. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion.
Thank you. So that's verse is speaking of Ptolemy and Seleucus. So Ptolemy had established his rule in Egypt, and Ptolemy was the king of the south. Seleucus is identified as the king of the north. So Ptolemy and Seleucus, they begin to fight in 6 Syrian wars. So they're fighting for territory. They're fighting for influence, spheres of influence. And the 6 Syrian wars begin at Ipsus. So 4 wars. What else do we have after Ipsus? So we have the division. We have the division of okay, that's fine. Okay. Sorry, it's true. Thank you for pointing that out. So I'm supposed to start a new line. Can someone give us a revision of what we've just learned so that we can, as we wrap up? Lisa. If you're okay with it. Okay.
I should just say what I learned or
Yes, what you've got.
okay. So I learned that if we read from Daniel 8, verse 8, it talks of Alexander and what happens after his death. That his 4 generals, had to fight for territory, and then they were fighting against Antigonus and Demetrius. Antigonus lost to the 3 generals, and then we then went on to learn that in the battle Ptolemy was not present, but then he had to come later against Seleucus, and then he marched around Seleucus territory and was given the territory by Seleucus. That's what I got.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll just go through this line again. Um, I was not supposed to put that information there. I was supposed to start a new line. So we have Cassandra sending a dictator to Athens, and Demetrius frees Athens, which sparks tension between Cassandra and Demetrius. And then we have an alliance 303 between Demetrius and Pyrrhus. And 301, we have Ipsus. And from Ipsus, we have the division of Macedonia. It's territory that is being shared amongst the generals. I don't know if anyone else has a comment or sees something. So we identified 4 wars that did we. There are 4 wars that Seleucus and Ptolemy fight because of the tension that had built up between them. We saw that Seleucus was given territory that was previously owned by Ptolemy. And Ptolemy marched and he went to claim the territory of core Syria. And Seleucus allowed Ptolemy to take up that territory because of the alliance that they had. Does anyone feel confused or not understanding anything, or have a comment or information that they have that can help? So when we go to Daniel chapter 5, from Daniel chapter 5 to 15, we see 4 of those Syrian wars. Daniel chapter 11, verse 5 to 15. So Daniel chapter 11, verse 5 to 15 gives us 4 of those wars, the Syrian wars. Why do we have 4 only? Leah? Why do we have 4 wars only? We talked of 6 Syrian wars that Ptolemy and Seleucus fight, called the Syrian wars. But in Daniel chapter 11, we only have 4. Why do we have 4 only?
I don't know. But I think we have 4 only because Daniel was wanted to make a point So I just picked those four.
So you do know. Okay. Yes, that is true. So we identify what is that called? What is that method of studying called? Cherry picking. So Daniel cherry picked. He selected 4 of the wars out of the 6 Syrian wars. So verse 13 to 15. Verse 13 to 15. What is okay, we'll start from verse 11. What do we identify Daniel 11, verse 11 with? Waymarks that are very, very crucial to our line. When we go to Daniel 11, verse 11, what do we find there? What waymark do we find there? There's a waymark that we find in Daniel 11, verse 11. Jesse gave a correct answer. Jesse said Battle of Raphia. Do we remember that? And which verses do we find the Battle of Pania? Is 13 to 15 we find the Battle of Pania. And these 2 battles, they give us information for our line. So they're very important. And we can see how these 2 battles, they come from the Battle of Ipsus. So it's important for us to identify that a waymark that is in our line, the Panium in Ipsus, it comes from this Battle of Ipsus. 11, verse 13 to 15. Where do we mark Panium? In our line. Sorry? Okay. How many? So to just summarize, I think it's important for us to see that Panium also comes directly from Ipsus. And in these presentations of Pyrrhus, Elder Tess picks parts of history that help to tell a story, the same way that Daniel did. And she did that very well in order for us to understand the role of Pyrrhus as the king of the south. So Daniel skipped the 1st and the 6th, and Elder Tess selects a history that helps to tell a story, and it's all there. It all links up, and it all just, gives us so much light. So so we see Daniel selects the history of one horn, which is broken, and then he takes us to the 4 winds, which give us 4 generals. And from there, he gives us the the story of Seleucus and Ptolemy, and then Raphia and Paniam. So Paniam is the last battle, and we do not see another battle between the king of the north and king of the south. And in application from Paniam, we do not see another battle between Russia and the United States of America. So I've run out of time. We will revise when we come back tomorrow. I think I gave homework. What was the homework? Yes. Did I? What was the answer? No, it was not in Egypt. Where was Ptolemy? When, and yeah, that's the homework. Where was Ptolemy on the Battle of Ipsus? No, that's not where he was. He was somewhere else. And then when he heard that the battle had been lost, he left where he was and he went to Egypt to defend his territory. All right, so are there any questions or contributions? Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine. Okay, so we'll pray to close. Let's pray. Our dear God in heaven, we come before you this afternoon with grateful hearts, and we want to thank you, dear God, for all that you do for us, to guide us, dear God, through to salvation. Dear God, we thank you for the messages that you continue to guide us so that you can help us to be saved. May you help us to be faithful students of prophecy and to do diligent work in searching the messages that you have for us, the information that you are willing to freely give us. When we show our commitment to you, help us to take the relationship that we have with you seriously, as we would with any other earthly relationships, with our friends, with um, our partners, dear God. I know that you want to be intimate with us. You want to share more with us. Dear God, I pray that you will help us to allow you to have the relationship that you want to have with us. I pray that you be with us through the rest of this day as we fellowship and as we have fun together. I pray that you help us to have balance and to balance our fast and slow brain, because you have taught us that it is important for us to do that, and this is where we end up sinning against you, when we fail to balance our humanity. I ask and pray for your blessings to be with us. In Jesus' name, I pray all this saying Amen.